Are you self-employed or are you a business owner? If you have to be at that job, you're self-employed. So that's okay, but how do you get to be a business owner? How do you take your business to where, you don't have to be there? Without sales, there is no business. There is nothing more important than sales. If you don't have financial statements, you have no idea where you sit today. A matter of fact, the person I was consulting today, I said, you don't even know if you're making money. And this is why a lot of small businesses fail. Matter of fact, I think the number is 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years and 98% in the first 10 years. An employee is somebody that trades time for dollars. Being a business owner, what does that really mean? Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Doctors Podcast, where I like to educate, inspire, and sometimes entertain you. So thank you for joining me once again. And today I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is owning a business, being a business person. And I don't want it to be only for business owners. I want it to be for employees, for college students, teenagers that are thinking about getting into business. One of the things that, everybody knows me as the real estate doctor, but, I've bought and, I've bought companies and sold companies. I was the CFO of a public company. I have an accounting degree. I'm a CPA. So I have a lot of very extensive business knowledge, and I've been all over the map with that. And I think what's important is that we talk about really what it is to be a business owner and what is a business owner, and are you a business owner, or could you even pull it off if you wanted to? So first off, in most people's lives, in order to start your career, you have to trade time for money. So that's basically taking a job. It's whether you're a teenager or you're early out of college or out of high school, but you're trading time for dollars to accumulate wealth. Now, some people decide that they're not going to go to college or university and decide that they're going to go right into business. And the more, if you're in the United States, the more and more that the price of universities go up, the more and more, trust me, I already told my 8-year-old son, listen, if it's going to cost me $300,000 to send you to school, I might as well just give you $300,000 and let's start a business together. I think they'll learn a lot more, and I think whether that business is successful or not, I feel very confident that I can teach them really practical things. Now, I'm sure that some of the professors that are watching, et cetera, because I have a ton of professors that like to watch The Real Estate Doctor, might be like, well, you're not well-rounded, and there's all these other things with universities, but the price in the United States is out of control. So let me digress back to being a business owner. What does that really mean? So you're going to start as an employee, and what I'm going to use is the 4 quadrants that Robert Kiyosaki uses in his cash flow quadrant book, which all these books that I speak about today, I've read and applied and put my own spin on them, and we will put a little picture of that book, and I really recommend it. So Robert Kiyosaki says that, there's 4 quadrants in investing. There's E for employee, there's S for self-employed, there's B for business owner, and there's I for investor. Now, I wish I read the book. They say, I wish I read I did read this book pretty early in my 20s, but I was already in business. And one of the things that, I would like to pass down to my children is it's not about I came from a family that, luckily we got into the middle class when I was, in my teenage years. But I basically, if you told me I could make money selling shoes, I would have sold shoes. But it's easy to make money. But what you don't want to do is trade so much of your time and effort and energy to trade that money. There are businesses that you can invest in, and there's businesses that you can do, real estate is one of them, that you can do passively and without a lot of your time. So if I was going to go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, I would say, listen, take a sheet of paper and say, hey, I want to sell shoes. I want to, go to school for AI. I want to invest in real estate. And really, there is a value to your time. So if I can make $500,000 selling shoes, or I can make $250,000 doing real estate, and this one requires 70 hours a week, and this one requires 20 hours a week, then guess what? At this point in my life, and really I hope I can pass this down to my children, and I'm passing it down to you, I'd rather make less money and have more time. Really, ultimately, with that extra time, you will be more creative and you will make more money doing other things, or you'll just enjoy your life. I didn't even look at it like that when I was 18 years old. So, everybody knows what an employee is. An employee is somebody that trades time for dollars, somebody that works in a business. And what I would say to anybody that's out there that's an employee in a company, especially a self-employed company, or a business owner company, as Robert Kiyosaki defines them, and I'll define them shortly. I hope that you have a little bit of appreciation after I'm done talking about what really a business owner goes through. So first off, let's talk about self-employed, and let's talk about how people get self-employed, right? So it was a little bit different, but most people, let's say you are an auto repair guy or mechanic. Let's say you're a mechanic, and you are the best mechanic at your company, you're the best mechanic in the state or the country, you're just good. Even let's say you're not good. You just don't like your boss, you think you can do it better, and you say, you know what, I'm going to open up my own auto mechanic shop. That decision that you make when you do that is, hey, I give a lot of credit to people that do that, and you are expanding yourself above the employee. But one thing that people really, I want to tell you, I want to smack you in the face with this. If you are an employee right now and you're thinking like, hey, I am the best business consultant and I'm going to start my own business consulting company. Guess what? If you're an auto mechanic, any position, as soon as you start that business, whatever it did that you loved, like maybe you liked working on cars, you will never do again. And if you are doing it, you are not really running a business. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when you start a business, let's say you were an auto mechanic, you now can't work on the cars because you have to hire people, you have to market, you have to do accounting, you have to do taxes. There are probably 12 or 13 other jobs which you are not qualified for, which you did not go to school for, which you didn't even think about before you walked in the door to start your own business, that you would have to be doing. And this is why a lot of small businesses fail. Matter of fact, I think the number is 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years and 98% in the first 10 years. And that's because, you were good at being a mechanic, but you're not good at accounting. A matter of fact, a lot of people are not even looking at their accounting. So let me just explain that. So I was coaching a student today, and they've been in business for like 5 or 6 years, and they file tax returns, but they don't look at financial statements. So what are financial statements? Financial statements is a balance sheet and an income statement. And a balance sheet basically shows where all your assets, liabilities, and your equity is. And the profit and loss, the income statement, shows your revenue and expenses. Well, first off, if you're doing it yourself, they're probably not accurate numbers. But you should have those prepared so if you were going to work out, where you stand today, where your life signs are today. How healthy are you? How healthy is your business, right? If you don't have financial statements, you have no idea where you sit today. A matter of fact, the person I was consulting today, I said, you don't even know if you're making money. I think I'm making money. And I can tell you that if you are not looking at financial statements, you do not know if you are making money. And how could that be? Well, if you got cash flow and you can buy stuff, you could be borrowing money. There could be a million ways. You could be deferring your payables. So if you're going to run a business, it is imperative not that you just pay an accountant to do your tax returns, but that you are looking at monthly or at the very least quarterly financial statements. So you can say, this is where I stand today. This is what the past, let's say it was a quarter or month was, and you can make judgments based on that. Without that information, you can't make any judgments and you can't project into the future. If you're looking at financial statements and you do projections, which is basically taking your financial statements and saying, okay, well, next year I think we can raise revenue, 20%. I think we can cut some costs, this, that, and the other thing. Well, if you aren't doing that, you don't know if your company is going to go forward or it's going to go down. You have no idea. It's a complete crapshoot. So when you are the auto mechanic and you start a business, you have to do all these other things. But what I kind of went on a tangent here, which is the most important thing, is you need to have a good accountant that not just files your tax returns, but prepares financial statements, and you are looking at reviewing and making moves based on those financial statements. Now, those financial statements are super important because also, if you want to ever take a loan from the bank, good luck getting a loan from the bank if you don't have financial statements. So if you're talking about small business, maybe get away with a tax return. But listen, everybody's lying on their tax return every way, and they're trying to do a deduction. You want financial statements. If a bank asks you, you go to a bank, you say, I want to borrow $1 million, and you take 10 years to give them your financial statements, they're already not going to give you the loan. You should have those financial statements. I know that you are not on your game if you're not able to prepare financial statements. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about some people get caught up in, and it's the type of people that you are. Some people get caught up in spending all this time on lowering their expenses. Now, if we're in a recession and there's no way to drive revenue up, then you should be all over those expenses. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't look at your expenses, but you should not spend 100% of your time or 80% of your time going through, this is for people that do have financial statements, and saying, well, wow, my materials cost is up 20%. How do I get it down? And you start negotiating to get it down, and you spend all this time trying to lower your expenses. Well, how much can you really save? Maybe you can save 10%. Maybe you can save 15%. And some people will tell you that's a lot. But with one phone call, you can increase your sales 30%. Maybe not one phone call. Your sales can go up infinite. There's an infinite rate of, you could have 1 million in sales this year. You could have 4 million next year. You could have 6 million, right? So you can only cut your expenses so much. If you're going to focus a lot of your time and energy, you should focus it on your sales. Now, without sales, you do not have a business. I don't care if you're the best mechanic in the world or whatever your business is. Without sales, you do not have a business. Now, the best mechanic in the world or any operator, you might not be a good salesman. You might be good at fixing cars. You don't even want to talk to people. You like to go under the hood, but you're not good at selling. And you didn't realize that old job that you had, that maybe that owner that didn't know anything about a carburetor could sell, and he brought the dollars in the door, and that's how you had your job. So without sales, there is no business. There is nothing more important than sales. I am not saying that you shouldn't pay attention to your expenses, and trust me, when you really take quantum leaps in your sales, your expenses can get out of control. But if you're looking at financial statements, you will notice. You'll be like, wow, sales went up 300%, but so did such and such, and it shouldn't go up 300%. But without your financial statements, you can't make any of those decisions. So I do want to mention there is a book called The E-Myth. It's a great book. It's an older book, and that basically explains what it's like to go from being an employee to owning your own business. Now, these are businesses like a mechanic shop or something. Any business where you are physically working in and you have to be at, you are not a business owner. You are self-employed. So let's define that as self-employed, and this is how Robert Kiyosaki defines these. And a business owner is somebody where you own a business, people work for you, and you don't need to be there. Well, 95% of small businesses are just you own the job. You're self-employed. So you'll say, yeah, I'm a business owner, but you're not a business owner. A business owner can go on vacation for 2 months and not even pay attention to the business. Is that your business? If that's not your business, that's what you should be working towards. If you have to be, and listen, I've been there. I'm not, complaining to people. I will tell you, to go from an employee, and sometimes I tell people, you're better off it's better to be an employee. It's not better for everybody, but for some types of people it is. You work 9 to 5, you come home, you do Netflix and chill with your girlfriend or your wife, And that's that. Guess what? When you are self-employed, you are always working. You go home and you're thinking about working. You can't sleep because you don't know how you're going to pay the bills tomorrow. So really think about it. I want everybody to take a second here. And if you're a business owner and I'm talking to you, are you self-employed or are you a business owner? If you have to be at that job, you're self-employed. So that's okay. But how do you get to be a business owner? How do you take your business to where, you don't have to be there? And I'll give you another good book. It's called Who, Not How. And a lot of us that, start as employees, get to be self-employed, we kind of created our own little world. We created things. It's not like, my father didn't give me advice like, hey, this is how you start a business, and this didn't happen for me. I had to figure it out. So when you start figuring it out, you think that you need to figure everything out. Well, guess what? You shouldn't be figuring everything out. You should stop saying how. Anytime you say how, stop yourself and say who, right? Now, the first time I say this to people, some people get an aha. They're like, hold on. Now, who? Why who? Well, guess what? If I own a business and I'm a mechanic and I'm doing my own QuickBooks, I'm inputting my own transactions, because my accountant said my accounting fees will be less if I don't give them like a bunch, a shoebox with receipts at the end of the year, right? Well, this is not smart. You are not the best person. You probably aren't even categorizing it properly. Now, this is like how about sales, right? Let's say you're not a if you're a salesperson. I had a friend of mine who's in, I guess he's being coached by me. We have like a mutual coach. He's not being coached by me. We're being coached together in an accountability group. And he said to me, I really need to do some sales. And he just hates it. And not only does he, if you hate something, you suck at it. So he sucks. He's never going to succeed because he cannot sell because he doesn't want to sell. It's just not natural for him. So I'm like, listen, why are you trying to learn all this? You should hire a salesperson because you know what a salesperson is? A lot of people hate them in an organization. But without sales, you have no business. So a salesperson actually loves to engage with people and sell them and close the deal. Now, I can talk a ton about sales because there's BS salespeople and there's real salespeople. Like a real salesperson doesn't need a salary. Like obviously I'm not for hire, but if you're going to hire me, you give me the biggest commission, no salary, and let me loose. I almost feel like I'm self-employed in your business and I can make as much money as I want. That's a salesperson. If you get a guy that comes in and says, hey, I want a company car and a $70,000 salary plus commission, forget about it. Don't even hire him. You know what? With my salespeople, what I used to do is I give them 3 months probation before I even put them. You're not even officially on the payroll. And I wouldn't even give them in those 3 months. Listen, people need to live, so you can't not pay them. I would give them a draw in advance against their future commission. Now, some of those people didn't last 3 months and, hey, I was out that money. But some of the people did, and they excelled, and I could recoup that money from their future commissions because there were animals. And I didn't give them a big number. You are investing your time and energy in those salespeople, and if you want to make a salesperson successful, you got to have some idea how to sell in your business. So I'm not saying maybe you are not the salesperson, but if you were a mechanic, you know what the problem is, how to solve the problem, why you're better to solve the problem, and you know who your clientele would be. So it depends on the type of business that you're in. But if I'm a salesperson, I don't want to walk in and somebody go, this is what we do. We chase ambulances, and that's a lawyer thing, so they don't need too many. They just put up billboards, right? But let's say you're any kind of business. So you're in any kind of business. If I walk in as a salesperson and you cannot tell me who I'm going to be calling, who is the best person? Like, for instance, these type of businesses are not interested in our services. These type of businesses are. These type of businesses have the bigger accounts, the commercial accounts. and you can get a $100,000 job on this one, or you can go to mom and pop and get $4,000. Well, listen, as a salesperson, I'm not trying to get mom and pop $4,000 deals. I'm going to go try to get the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 deal because I'm commission only and I can make the bigger commission. And if you own a company, that's better for you. So what I tell people is do not, and don't put out these ads. Man, I see these ads like, hiring, sales position, like a boring position. Make it exciting. Say something like, listen, if you want to make $500,000, come work for me. If you're aggressive and want to make $1 million next year, come work for me. Now, you might say, well, how could they make $1 million? Well, they can make $1 million if you give them a good commission and they can sell a lot. And in any business, you can make it. Most salespeople, very good salespeople, are making $500,000 or more. And if your salespeople are not making $500,000 or more, you're missing something in your business. So, talked about sales. I got a couple notes here. Self-employed, we own our job. Eventually, you want to become a business owner. And you want to be a business owner that, doesn't have to work in the business. Now, there's another part of the quadrant which is even better, which is an investor. And that's where your money works for you. That's where you invest in a company, the company operates, and you're not even, you're just a passive investor. That's another reason why I like real estate. So the goal here is really you want to go employee, you want to skip self-employed. But that's kind of where we all start. And you don't want to sink there. You can sink there. What I can tell you in my career that you can make really good fat margins as a small self-employed business. But as you start naturally growing and growing and growing, if you don't jump to be a big business and be a business owner, it's like, you go from like, a couple million in revenue, let's say under 10 million, to 200 million is better than being stuck at 50 million or 55 million. When you're in the middle, you don't have enough revenue to pay for all the real good help that you do need, because when you're at 200 million, you can hire a CFO, a COO, human resources director of this, and it's not going to really hurt the business. But when you're in between, it's like, I know I'm doing everything, but if I hire somebody to do my job, I got to pay them $350,000. And what if they suck? And a lot of times they do suck, So one advice I would tell you is it's okay if you want to be self-employed and stay small and take fat margins and make a steady business, not murder yourself. That's okay. But when you start feeling like, you know what? I'm doing double the revenue. I'm not making the same margins. Like, last year I made $200,000. I did double the revenue this year, and I'm still making $200,000. Well, then, ding, 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 alert. That means that, you either should come back and do less and make the same money, or you got to take a jump. That's a big alert. You don't want to end up, and this is what happens naturally in business, a client refers you, another client, and before you know it, you got more business than you can handle. You never set up the proper systems. And some people will tell you, probably if you went, and I didn't go to Wharton School of Business or Harvard Business School or the London School of Economics, and I'm sure that they will tell you that you should do a business plan, right? And in that business plan, you would have had all these systems and this figured out. Well, here's what I would tell you. Listen, you don't even know if you're going to make money. Like, why go and waste your time writing a whole business plan about this great, elaborate BS company that you're going to make when you don't know if the market even wants your stuff? I would say, go sell it. And if somebody's going to buy it, now, guess what? People are buying it. Now I'll make my business plan. Now, I'm not saying that should be 7 years later. It should be in the beginning. And you do want to you have to, while you're small, very key point. While you're small, you have to figure out systems for when you get bigger. You don't need those systems when you're bigger. You need those systems. You do need them when you're bigger, but you don't want to try to figure them out when you're bigger. You want to create the systems when you're smaller. And there's so many cool things you can do nowadays. First off, let's say you have a position and I know a lot of us, we hate teaching people stuff. Like, I don't have the time, I'll just do it myself, right? Well, what you do is you record yourself teaching the first person. So let's say you hire somebody, they're an account executive, whatever that means, and you go, okay, Mary, this is how you do the job. Well, record yourself teaching Mary how to do the account executive job. And then have Mary, when she gets better, she'll record each one of those little tasks and processes. Now, if Mary quits on you, which guess what? When you own a business, people quit. Now the next hire, you don't have to sit there. Oh man, I just invested all that time and now I got to train them again. Well, guess what? You just say, hey, now Mary left, now Susie comes. Hey, Susie, watch all these videos. This is how you do your job, and this is how you do the tasks of your job. And you did the initial training, but Mary created, part of her job was all these videos. So if you're going to have turnover in your business, somebody can go and watch these videos, and you don't have to kind of put your time and effort back into that. Now, another thing that I cannot believe, when I'm coaching people don't even, this is crazy. It's 2024 when I'm recording this. And some people are not using virtual assistants. So virtual assistants are people that work in other countries that do jobs for you. And I can tell you, they're fantastic. I don't want to say anything negative about people working in the United States, but you can get somebody with a PhD to work for you for $700 a week. I have some VAs that are $250 a week for 50 hours. You could never get that. And I'm telling you, if I tell them to do something, they're like that. They're like that. Now I have some really good ones that are 600. They're bilingual, this, that, and the other thing. Even in my, so I'm the real estate doctor and I'm doing social media. I have a VA in my social media. I have VAs that, I don't have any real employees anymore. Thank God. So I don't want to say they're not real. They're probably better than some of my other employees. The only time you actually need a physical employee is if you have to have them do physical things. But now everybody can work from home. We can do Zoom calls. You can do everything. You can track people. If you don't have a virtual assistant, like I use them for everything, and sometimes people are around me and are like, what are you doing? And I'll be on my phone with WhatsApp, and maybe I just had a thought. I just go, hey, write this thought down, blah, 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 blah. And, they will have a meeting. They'll say, here's your notes from everything that you wanted. I mean, I have high-level VAs that can make phone calls to cities, can do calls with property managers, like really high-level VAs. So if you want to cut your costs, you can hire a VA. And I'm not saying you're going to get less quality. I think you get better quality from VAs. Now, the other thing that's really coming now is artificial intelligence. Like, you wouldn't believe, if you guys are not using Chat GPT, which is like the most basic, this is like going to kindergarten. If you are writing anything or looking for an answer anywhere and you're not using Chat GPT, it's out of control. And I have friends, I'll be out and they'll be like, oh, but you don't know. I'm in the business of investment banking and nobody knows how to make a stock accretive and what that means. Oh yeah, AI knows, just right. I'm an investment banker. How would you make a stock accretive? What does that mean? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's insane. Check it out. And there's way more high-level stuff. I think I was at a seminar last month, and I think there's 5,000 new AI apps coming out every month. 5,000. Now, they're not all going to make it, but I mean, if you want to create a website, you don't need a website guy anymore. AI can create your website. You don't need I don't know if you guys know this, but actually some people say to me on my Instagram, they think I'm fake because they think I'm a AI. And there are people that have created AI models on Instagram that make $30,000, $40,000 a month. So I'm a guy, I created some AI Instagram model and she's making me $30,000 a month. There's a business for you, So guys, you have to, if you're going to run a business, you have to know about what's going on and you got to get out from under the hood if you're a mechanic. So, there's a lot for me to speak about and what I coach about as a business owner. As a business owner and as a business consultant, I consult people just on business, not just real estate. So I'm going to make this, now I thought about it, I'm going to make this a 2-part podcast. So this is going to be part 1. And what I want you guys to understand is there's 4 quadrants. There is employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. If you're self-employed, recognize today you're self-employed and make moves. Either you're cool being self-employed, you're small, you got nice margins, got a nice life, or you're like probably the rest of everybody, like how I was, where, you're working 90 hours a week. You don't know how you're going to make payroll. You don't know how you're going to do it. It's difficult. And in the next podcast, what I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about the psyche, the mental, what we have to go through. And you can't talk to anybody as a business owner. It's insane. So you want to decide, do I want to stay a self-employed owner or do I want to become a business owner? You should want to become a business owner because you'll have more freedom and you now really own a business and the business doesn't own you. I talked a little bit about the sales. It's very important. If you don't have sales and if you suck at selling, you shouldn't be selling. So if you create a business and you're a mechanic and you want to sell more, you should have a marketing team. You should have a sales team and if you're actually self-employed and under the hood, you can't really market anybody. Yeah, you got word of mouth, and let me just talk a little bit about this. There's a thing called the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule, or Pareto's law, which is true in nature too, is that you will make 80% of your money from 20% of your clients. And you will have 80% of your headaches from, the other 80, So let me just say it. You will make 80% of your money from 20% of your clients, right? And those clients, there's little clients that drive you crazy. So let's say you're selling widgets. I come and I buy one widget. I guarantee you will spend more time with me buying one widget than some other owner, some other person that comes and buys 100 widgets. Wealthy people that buy in quantity, they actually, are less work. They don't have the time to be like, well, could you give me a $3 discount, this, that, and the other thing. So in all businesses, you have to understand your value, which I'll talk a little bit on the next podcast, but recognize who are the 20% of the clients that I'm making 80% of the money from? Now, you won't know them when they walk in the door. Sometimes you do. Did you ever do a client meeting and, a prospective client, and this person's just a pain in the butt, and they're asking, all these questions, and, right then what that person's going to be like as a client. And if you're in business to do good business, you're going to be married to that person for a long period of time. Do you want to be married to that person? Or do you want, the person that comes in and says, hey, what are you selling? Oh, auto body? Yep. That's $500. No problem. I'll take that client. And those are the clients you want to keep. So you want to kind of do an audit of your clients, and you want to either get rid of those that you don't make as much money on or take more of your time, or you move them down the line in your business to other people. You will only deal with the people you make 80% of the money with, that you get the highest returns, and you have to put the less amount of time in. So I don't want to make this podcast too long, so this will be part 1 of business coaching. So I hope you guys have taken some value from this, and everybody have the best day of your life.